Welcome back, and today we are covering what you've been all waiting for, the Norway court case, day 6. This is the day that all the exJWs, or a bunch of them, are testifying. So it's quite interesting. We're going to get right into it. And so here we go. Okay, so this is day 6, January 15th, 2024 of the Norway trial, and this is where Jehovah's Witnesses have sued the country of Norway. So Norway's actually defending themselves for their previous judgment on Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's where they're pulling their charity status as a religion because of their shunning policy. So we've heard from the Jehovah's Witness argument the first couple of days, and now we're getting into the Norway's argument. And to back Norway, we have the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses telling their stories, quite simply. So January 6th, T testifies. The court has ordered that this witness shall be protected. There will be no reports or references from her testimony. SH testifies. She is the mother of T, which means we cannot report details of the testimony. All we can say is that her testimony went very well, and it was crushing for JWs. So Marie Sten testifies now. And she talks about herself. She's 49 years old, born into the congregation, excommunicated in 1995. Her parents, grandmother, and a couple of uncles are Jehovah's Witnesses. None of her siblings were baptized. She received help from the support network and is currently on the board of the support network. Talks about her upbringing in Jehovah's Witnesses. Isolation, 3 meetings per week, required to associate with others in the congregation. Had doubts about whether it was okay to be friends with worldly children. Baptized at 13 or 14. Was an unbaptized publisher from the age 12. Talks about meetings. Says how you just had to adhere to what was in the literature. She knew about the possibility of being excommunicated and had seen it, but didn't think it could happen to her. As she got older, she found it more challenging to be a Jehovah's Witness. Choose not to express her thoughts because she was afraid Satan would hear her and she would die at Armageddon. Had a tough time in this period from the 8th grade. Had suicidal thoughts, got bad grades in school, but never told anybody. Had a boyfriend within the congregation they weren't allowed to marry in the Kingdom Hall because they had been immoral before marriage. Married outside, things started to get difficult. Her husband wasn't allowed to answer at the meetings, lost privileges at the meal times because they had sex before marriage. She separated from her husband. If you get divorced, you can't get married again. She met someone else, had sex with him, told the elders, and was excommunicated in 2005. She lost her entire network in one day. Created a new network to move forward. Has 3 siblings who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. Has contact with mom and dad but never talks about religion, limited contact with grandparents, has no contact with other family members who are Jehovah's Witnesses. Talks about the different situations when she has contact with family members. Her parents are not very active in the congregation. They have been asked if they have had contact with her. Talks about exclusion and the reasons for it. She knows others who have been excommunicated. Baptized at 14, married in 1994, struggling with feelings that she might be homosexual, excommunicated in 2005, had problems in marriage after 2001, separated in 2003, was a faithful member, developed critical thinking. Her ex-husband beat the children, and she didn't get support from the elders to make him stop. She believes the family is sacred, wouldn't come back after being excommunicated. Had a period where she was on sick leave because she was overwhelmed. Her children are not Jehovah's Witnesses. Talks about the support network, what it is and what it does. Has little contact with Jehovah's Witnesses. Has contact with other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, friends, and also those who seek help in the support network. She doesn't see that Jehovah's Witnesses have changed their practices. She talks about how one can't break a marriage as a Jehovah's Witness. Raquel testifies now. We have a new person. A direct quote from Jan Nielsen. He says, she is doing great. We're murdering JWs today. In chess, opponents can just resign when they know the game is lost and keep playing. and not keep playing. In chess, if you know your beat and you lost all your main players, you can just kind of turn over your king and quit and walk away. So that's what Jan is saying. He says this should be an option for the JWs here to save them more misery. So if you look in this picture here, you can see a lot of people behind this girl that's testifying. They look pretty serious. This guy behind here, I don't know who he is, but anyways, Raquel testifies. So we're going to get into her testimony right now. Raquel's testimony, Raquel Lima Mountainwood, born in 1997, is a nurse. She is a former member of the JWs, and she was born into the JW. Her parents, grandparents on both sides are JW. She has 4 younger siblings and grew up with her father as an elder. She had a large social network in the congregation, was very active as a JW child with the family. She talks about everyday life as a child, how she was baptized at 17 in 2014. Most of her friends were already baptized. Raquel talks about the preparation before she was baptized, was forcibly admitted to a psychiatric ward at age 17 before she was baptized due to anorexia, after she experienced that there was pressure on her to be baptized because all her friends were baptized. She thinks that baptism is a big choice in life and that it would have been better to wait. Talking about exclusion, she talks more about what it was like growing up in the congregation. She speaks of how her hospitalization gave her time to reflect. And she talks about what led to her being excluded. I am not including sensitive detail. You can imagine what this non-consensual incident crime was. Me. The incident happened when she was out of the hospital and out of town with the JW. Her best friend told her that if she did not talk to the elders herself, then they would report her themselves. So she met 2 elders, considered a judicial committee. Nobody comforted her. They blamed her for her choice of clothes, for being on the town, the way she was acting, etc. Her fault. They asked her intimate questions that had no relevance. Said a report to the police would make Jehovah's name look bad because she was at a club. She says she knows it was a crime and that it should have been dealt with as a crime. It was traumatic. Somehow her father was told about the incident. Raquel doesn't know how, and her parents just said it was unfortunate. Nobody comforted her or asked her how she was doing. This all happened between commitments to the hospital. Still, nobody checked on her. She talks about how her mental health, suicidal thoughts, and self-harm and more experienced after she got married at 20 to someone who grew up as a JW but was not baptized. She experienced physical and sexual violence from her husband. Her parents knew. She told them how he treated her. She wanted to leave him when she found out she was pregnant in order to protect the child. She told the elders this, and they said that they did not want to talk to her without her husband present. They reminded her that her marriage was holy. When she was finishing her education as a nurse, she felt she disagreed with the no blood policy and disagreed about the JW view on abortion. She realized she was not in agreement with JWs anymore. When Raquel became pregnant and wanted to leave her husband, she had a very difficult experiences with the elders. She became a mother, had a difficult birth due to omitting details of disturbing reasons for the difficult birth. Her mother was contacted and her mother came to the hospital. She had previously excluded her. At the time of birth, she had stopped attending meetings and was soft shunned, but not disfellowshipped. She says she lost faith after starting to feel something was wrong. She talks about when she went to her parents and experienced that she wanted out of the church, the JW religion. Her father wanted her to fade over time to avoid disfellowshipping. She talks about how she resigned from the congregation and was worried she'd never see her younger brothers again. She told her parents goodbye, then drove away. She sent a text to the elders saying she was disassociating from the Jehovah's Witnesses and told them to stay away from her. Good for her. She knew the consequences of this was the same as disfellowshipping, and that she would be shunned. She did not want to be talked to by any elder about it, just wanted confirmation that she was out of the JW religion, and the elders wouldn't keep any of the records. She got confirmation, and it was announced a few days later. Then the shunning started. People told her goodbye, and they had to shun her because the Bible says so. She has barely seen her siblings since. Contact with parents is absolute minimal. Raquel was asked if she feels shunning is up to each individual. She says this is not true in her experience. Shunning is mandatory for all according to her experience and Watchtower literature. Her parents see it as the test of loyalty to Jehovah. Raquel says she accepts this but would never do this to her own children. She knows her parents love her, but that the religion means more to them. She can remember others who were excluded, and when she was a child, messages from family and friends saying that they would not have contact with her. Raquel has written a novel about someone who grows up in a JW and is very much affected by it. It is natural for parents to shun apostates. Raquel says they would have shunned her anyways for disassociating, even if she did not speak up about the JW abuse. And the reason for them shunning her is because of her disassociating herself, not because she speaks out. She counters JW lawyer Risdell. No matter the reason, it hurts to be shunned by her own family. JW lawyer Risdell asks if anyone stopped her from leaving the JW. Raquel says losing family felt like someone stopping her. Risdell said that she did not believe any more and shunning would be natural. He tries to normalize shunning, the JW lawyer. So the JW lawyer Risdell asks, if it's not natural to avoid contact when someone doesn't believe anymore, it's not natural. He is trying to say that it was natural for family to shun her as she had left her faith. That's what he was trying to say. Raquel answers very well. Risdell tries to pick on the difference between disassociating and disfellowshipping. He is really pushing her. Raquel stays calm. He now talks to her about the incident sensitive and asks her violent husband. Asks if she ever reported to the police. Raquel says she did report him to the police and they handled it. The previous incident at the club that she was a victim of and was disfellowshipped for was not reported to the police. Risdell, the JWO lawyer, reads from the elder's book, Shepherding the Flock, refers to that part, and it says it's wrong to report to the police. It only says it's wrong. It does not encourage reporting. And that's what the elder's book says. It kind of leaves it up to the victims, the family. They don't encourage reporting, the elders, not at all. My experience, they deflect from it. I try. Mine's is another story, but they deflect. So Risdell, the JW lawyer, reads from the elder's book, Shepherding the Flock, refers to the part that says it's wrong to report, that it's not wrong to report to the police. So yeah, it says it's not wrong, but no one reports. The elders don't report. Says the elders have erred in her aim asking why the sensitive content was not reported. Basically saying the Watchtower did not instruct this, avoiding responsibility for this. Raquel says a report would not have prevailed as there were no witnesses, and she could not bear the procedure to gather evidence at the time of the incident. Risdell asks her how she feels in her new religion. She says it's a conservative religion like she is, but still more free than JWs. Risdell confronts her with articles, quotes. He quotes an interview where she is saying that she is more happy with her new religion. He asks if her parents see their grandchildren, asks if they support her, help her. She responds that they have supported her a little financially and installed an alarm system, minor things. Risdell asks how her father got to know about the sensitive incident, and Raquel says there was a lot of shame and how it was affected her. Nobody supported her, not even her father. So that's the end of Raquel's testimony. So now we're going to get into Vega's testimony, and we're just going to take a little break here. Okay, we're back from the break. Vega's testament. Vega works in child services, worked for the police in the competence team for social control. She is a public employee. Works as a guide in an expert team for negative social control and close relationships. She does not have much knowledge about Jehovah's Witnesses. She has met some and says they seem to be kind, sweet people. Talks about negative social control, reads the definition, discusses what social control is, what negative social control is, and how it affects children. She discusses when it becomes a problem for children, hindering their development and the impact it can have. Gives examples of social control. Children experiencing it have limitations that others don't. As adults, they may lack social skills, and children are overweight. Talks about what children can be subjected to and discusses other cases of social control in Norwegian society and within immigrant communities, along with statistics. Mentions an increase in cases collaborating with the Help Kilden and the need for better statistics on religious communities. Not focused much on social control in Norway. When asked about the Jehovah's Witnesses, she says she is not an expert in faith, just social control. She does not speak about all Jehovah's Witness families, sticking to the definition. Discusses pressure and coercion in regard to JW children, pressure attending meetings, pressure to be baptized, pressure to go door to door, control. The fundamental belief that they are not part of the world, that the world is controlled by Satan. Children are not allowed to participate, make friends outside, and there is more control over younger children and less over older ones. In social control, control increases as children get older, discusses relationships, what children can be exposed to. Talks about other cases of social control in Norwegian society and within immigrant communities, presenting statistics. Defends why there are so many details in cases, asks about the lack of documentation, says it is more burdensome to experience negative talk from family members than from others. And Jehovah's Witnesses are not alone in disapproving of sex outside of marriage, but they differ in their consequences. Religious communities are seen as close relationships. Exactly. Like, if we have problems, we should be able to go to the church and get comfort, not be shunned and thrown out and not talked to. And this is where I say that this religion is medieval. It's dark. It comes from the Dark Ages. It's dark art that they use, this shunning. Now, she talks about the negative social controls and close relationships. The lawyer tries to compare Jehovah's Witnesses to a football club, stating that exclusions from a football club is the same as being expelled from Jehovah's Witnesses. Vega does not agree. Exactly. Asked how Jehovah's Witnesses are pressured to be baptized, explains pressure can include expectations from parents. So now we jump over to Carrie's testimony. So Carrie, she's a PhD psychologist, has worked for 18 years. She's worked in religion as a significant part of people's lives. She works clinically with religion and has researched it. She has met patients who have left Jehovah's Witnesses, talks about psychology, theories of relationships between people, religion, and mental health. And religion affects relationships with others, how religious groups affects other groups, influence on identity, talks about sexuality, moral rules, consequences, the importance of belonging, especially for children. And if a person has to deny who they are, well, there's serious consequences inside if you have to deny who you are. And she talks about the attachments of theories to families. The first relationships are the most important. Broken relationships increase likelihood of mental disorders. And she emphasizes the importance of networks and friends, a crucial part of the human development. Friends are essential for human development. This is part of our human rights, folks. This shunning violates all of our human rights all over Earth. It's cruel. So she talks about relationships with parents, security, insecurity. Social experiences are very important for social development of humans. And relationship with God, whom you have never met, are always different from relationships with parents whom you have met. So you see, JW Org tries to make the relationship with Jehovah, this pantheon God Jehovah, their God, their watchtower God, is the supreme God. That's what, and more important than anything else. So it's really Jehovah equals watchtower. That's how I read the whole thing. Now, the relationship, she talks about what happens when a child is expelled, and she compares it with the adoption process. So children do not have references like adults. A 15-year-old is too young to fully understand. Not on the same level as an adult. The human brain is not finished. The analytical part is not fully developed. Talks about how fear and experience of others being expelled affects children, potentially traumatizing. And it does it for adults. And talks about expulsion, greater fear. People are significantly different. A 15-year-old is more vulnerable than adults. And she talks about how meeting with 3 elders can affect a young person. Yeah, losing control can create anxiety. A significant difference in power between child and the older adults. And they are told that depression is normal, contributing to the increase of stress. So the significance of losing family, losing something irreplaceable, is very burdensome. The fear of being alone is strong. Anything that burdens people affects mental health. Exclusion involves isolation, talks about how it burdens people, deep social stigmatization, shame, public declaration, isolation. A person becomes more vulnerable and struggles with self-regulation. The lawyer talks about other cases that can have a burdensome impact on people. He talks about relationships with God, ideas about God, attachments to God, and how the relationship with God can affect mental health. Talks about the judge, about whether psychological violence is relevant to this case. Negative social control is part of the psychological violence. Talks more about relationships for children. Talks about how it affects children when parents lose privileges due to their actions. The threat of not belonging is burdensome for a child, and it's too young for a 15-year-old to choose a religion. And depends on what the religion entails, but what is problematic is that the child commits to something that can be burdensome later and has not had any cooperation or affiliation with Help Kilden. So folks, I think that's the end of the article. Yeah, that brings an end to the article. So I'll tell you what, if I was a JW in that audience, that Risdell, that lawyer, boy, that kind of set him straight on a lot of things. And by having the psychologist in there explaining it the way it is, I think that was just excellent. So I'm going to pin this in the bottom, and you guys can look at it. There's actually links in this one. If you haven't seen the previous days, you can look at it on this link. So that brings an end to day number 6, exJW testimonies. And we thank you for being our listener, and we thank you for sharing these posts, getting them out there to the world. This really makes a difference. This is a really important case for the whole world. So thanks again, and keep living your life with love. Bye for now. Thanks again for watching. We appreciate your comments, your dislikes, and your likes. If you would like to support the channel, just press join and buy us a coffee once a month. Until next time, keep dancing, smiling, laughing, and most of all, keep loving those around you. And have a great day.
Produced by Fixing My Faith.